Okay, we've all taken tests, right? Some feel totally fair, and others, well, others feel completely impossible. But what's really going on behind the scenes? What separates a genuinely good test from a bad one? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the hidden rules for building an assessment that's actually fair and effective. Let's dive in.
So let's kick things off with a little true or false. Imagine a test where 90% of the students pass. On the surface, that sounds amazing, doesn't it? A huge success. But is it really? Is that automatically a sign of a good test? We're going to circle back to this, but let me tell you, the answer is way more interesting than you might think.
All right, first things first. Let's talk about the absolute bedrock of any good assessment: fairness. Seriously, if a test isn't fair, nothing else matters. It's all about making sure every single student has a legitimate shot to show what they know. So let's start with something that feels like common sense. I mean, think about any time you've tried to build furniture with terrible instructions. It's a nightmare. It's the same for tests. So is it true that clear instructions are an absolute must?
Yep, that is 100% true. You want to test a student's knowledge of the material, not their ability to be a detective and decode confusing directions. Any kind of ambiguity just muddies the waters and prevents you from getting an accurate result.
Okay, so clear instructions are non-negotiable. What's the next logical step? The actual stuff on the test. How about this? Is it ever okay to throw a question on there about something you never even taught? Like a total surprise pop quiz on material nobody has ever seen before?
Oh, absolutely false. A test should never, ever be a gotcha moment. The point isn't to trick people or catch them off guard. It's supposed to be an honest measurement of what they learned from the course.
So really, fair content boils down to a few golden rules. Rule 1, you only test what's been taught, period. Rule 2, you've got to avoid testing for some vague general proficiency. For example, a math test shouldn't secretly be a super hard reading comprehension test. And finally, the way questions are asked on the test should look a lot like how the material was taught in the first place. No curveballs.
All right, now that we've got fairness down, let's tackle what I like to call the Goldilocks challenge. Getting the difficulty just right, because a test that's too hard is useless, and a test that's too easy is also useless. It has to be right in that sweet spot.
So, remember that question I asked you at the very beginning? Let's bring it back. If 90% of students pass with flying colors, could that actually be a sign that something's wrong? Could the test be, a little too easy?
You bet, that is true. A super high pass rate can actually be a red flag that your test isn't doing its job.
And here's why. While seeing everyone succeed feels great, it might just mean the test wasn't challenging enough to tell the difference between students who kind of get it and students who have really mastered it. Think about it. If everyone gets an A, that grade doesn't really tell you much about anyone, does it?
Okay, so let's flip the script. What about the total opposite scenario? What if only a tiny handful of students, say 10%, actually pass the test? Is that a pretty clear sign that maybe the test was way too hard?
Absolutely. For sure. A crazy low pass rate is just as big of a warning sign as a crazy high one.
See, both extremes are a problem. A test that's practically impossible is just demoralizing, and it probably isn't measuring what students actually learned anyway. The goal isn't to make students fail, it's to get a clear, accurate picture of where they stand.
So getting the difficulty right is one big piece of the puzzle. But the structure of the test itself is a whole other thing. It's not just about what you ask, it's about how you ask it. And that brings us to two really big ideas in test design.
So is it true that pretty much all tests can be sorted into one of two main buckets, either discrete or holistic?
It is true. And understanding the difference between these two is key to understanding how tests are built from the ground up.
Okay, so think of a discrete test like a laser pointer. It hones in on one tiny, specific piece of information. A multiple choice question about a single vocabulary word is a perfect example. A holistic test, on the other hand, is like a wide-angle camera lens. It captures the big picture by making you combine a bunch of skills at once, like writing an essay. You need grammar, vocabulary, structure, the whole shebang. Neither one is better, they're just different tools for different jobs.
Okay, we've talked fairness, difficulty, and structure. Now we are getting to the absolute gold standard for the pros who design tests. These two words are everything: reliability and validity.
And here's the entire concept in a nutshell. Validity is all about accuracy, and reliability is all about consistency.
To have a great test, you absolutely have to have both.
Let's break down validity first. This just asks a simple question. Is your test actually measuring the thing you say it's measuring? So if you want to test someone's public speaking skills, giving them a multiple-choice quiz is not a valid test. A valid test would be, having them actually give a speech. It's got to be accurate to the skill.
And then you've got reliability. This one is all about consistency. A reliable test should give you pretty much the same results no matter what. If a student takes a test on a Monday, and then an equally difficult version of that same test on Wednesday, their scores should be really, really close. If the results are all over the map, that test is not reliable. It's got to be dependable.
So when you put it all together, you see that building a good test is this incredible mix of art and science. It needs to be fair, it has to have that just right level of difficulty, and it must be built on that solid foundation of validity and reliability. So, think back to the last test you took. Now that you know the rules, how did it stack up? Was it a good one?